Good to go? All right. Welcome, everybody. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any changes to the agenda?
We had a request if we could move the donations maybe up above the consent agenda from someone in the audience. I don't have a problem with it.
Do you want to make a motion to that or?
Yeah, I make a motion that we move the donations, both donations or just, we'll just move them both there. Both the donations from the action items to up before the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. So we will enter into our first session of public comments. And we'll put the policy up on the screen. This will be our first session. We have a second session later. So we are welcoming people to come and talk with us. Anybody on Zoom? No? Okay, great. We'll go forward. You have a second opportunity toward the end of the meeting. Next, Jaden with our student representative report.
Good evening, everyone. I put it in a slideshow today because I felt like it. So first up, I know something that's been on my mind recently, just because it's getting warmer, it's getting closer to the end of the year. Just kind of a general radar for our seniors, our 12th grade learners this year. So if you would go to the second slide. We have our capstone presentations coming up within the month of May. Our journal entries have been completed. This is the first year that capstone projects have been required as a graduation requirement. So admin and counseling and whomever is just trying to navigate the technical aspects of it. It's proving to be worthwhile, but a little challenging, a little bumpy, just because we had originally discussed singular presentations with, you can invite family, friends, coworkers, whomever, but now it's just, there's a lot of people and not a lot of time. So the powers that be have opted to transition this to a science fair presentation type of thing, which we'll see how that goes. I'm sure I'll report back. Next, scholarships, a lot of those coming out. Local scholarships that have been kind of on paper supplied through the counseling center, giving resources. The majority of those were due on Friday. So there was a bit of a race last week for that, along with a few transcript issues, just because of grades changing over. We kind of had to go back and revise. I noticed that I personally, my transcript recording my grades thus far this year had only been like a 57%, and I knew that that wasn't true based off of my grades for each course. So I brought that to their attention, and it was wonderfully handled, given that they had 2 days to do it. So I was very happy about that. Commitments, 17 seniors have already committed to, in this case, colleges or universities. I don't think any have officially committed to say the military or other career paths or technical institutions, but 17 already, more to come. I'm very excited.
How many seniors are there, Jaden?
There's around 80 ish, 75, 80. Some have already graduated early, halfway through the year, so. And then, of course, graduation, June 13th, the golden day, at Franklin Pierce. So, other things coming up and things that have already kind of happened. The American Heritage Tour. I remember in 8th grade when in 7th grade, we were told you can't go on NEHT, COVID's happening. And then, of course, the following year, you can't go on AHT, COVID's still happening. So I feel very fortunate for these 8th graders and 9th graders to have this opportunity, because I know that pre-COVID, it was such a staple throughout this school. I do remember that. So I'm just really glad they have this opportunity. They're preparing for it now. They're going to meetings. It's being handled very responsibly. Other trips, the Interact trip coming up, the annual service trip to the Dominican Republic. They're leaving this Thursday. They're going to spend their entire April vacation out there. They are requesting donations in the form of school supplies, craft items, sports and recreation items, children's books in Spanish, and first aid or hygiene items. So if anyone has any of that stuff lying around or feels really willing to make that donation, I know that they would really appreciate that. There's just so many people less fortunate than us, and it's important not to take that for granted. This past week, band and chorus members across the district have performed in multiple events. There's been some statewide band concerts. I know that the all district band concert is also, it's either already passed or it's coming up soon. And then practice exams for advanced placement courses. That's 10th grade through 12th grade learners have been preparing, and the course instructors have been taking the time and running 3-hour-long practice exams with them just to make sure they're prepared next month, which is incredible. And I'm so glad that this is being offered, because it is such a helpful resource. I know for me personally, it's always been really helpful to trial run it before you go and just kind of figure out what you're doing wrong before you actually do it wrong. Upcoming events in May. We have a lot of stuff coming up. I was looking this over and I was just so excited about all the opportunities. Of course, AP exams, the real thing. Those will be taking place when we come back from April vacation during the 1st and 2nd weeks of May. Prom, which is also coming up. Oh, I forgot to change the subtitles. Ignore the subtitles, please. Prom's coming up. Juniors and seniors are very excited. It's a night in Hollywood themed, which I'm excited for because I haven't seen very much of that going around. It's mostly Enchanted Forest stuff around here, so I'm excited to mix it up. The NHS Cornhole Tournament, which I am helping organize, so please show up. It's May 10th. It's another service fundraiser for the National Honor Society. We're having a cornhole tournament. We're going to be doing it down at tennis courts. There are prizes for 1st and 2nd place, and there is childcare provided. Annie, the production of Annie, which, there's a star sitting in the center of this table lineup. I'm very excited to see that. That show will be running May 9th and May 10th. There will be 3 shows, a matinee on Saturday. Very excited for that. And the Edie's field trip, learners who were involved in presenting to the Edie's members, I guess is how I should refer to them. They're invited to the trip in May to kind of receive commemoration, accept the award type of situation. I'll get back to that later. That's part of my segue. A promising spring sports season. We're doing pretty good so far. It's early, but we're doing pretty good, especially in our high school varsity area. They do have games tonight, so I'm hoping those go well. I hope I'm not jinxing that right now. And sports photography in particularly has been getting so good. I think with the help of Ben Conant, he's been kind of inspiring kids in photography classes here, or just recreational photographers to take more pictures of sports and take more pictures of nature and all of that kind of stuff. So he's doing pretty good. And so are people who show up to games and take pictures. I think that's great. But yeah, those are just some little statistics. Speaking of athletics, senior athletes were recently honored through NHIA and NHADA. They went up to Concord to receive their 4-year 2 varsity sport awards. We had several seniors there with Miss Lindstedt. We had Ben Sawyer, Kendra Worcester, Hannah Manley, Francesca Ketela, Lola Hayes, Emily Battisti, Tristan Hurt, and Elizabeth Crespo, with our very own Lola Hayes receiving the Division III scholarship from the NHADA, which is incredible. I'm very proud of her. She does every single sport and she's great at all of them. So, and then finally, my segue, the Edie's experience thus far. We got called down into a very mysterious and assembly that we had no idea what it was for, and I was really hoping it was this because I really didn't want any more bad news. But it was this, so it wasn't bad news. But the bad news was I was in my pink Link Crew sweatshirt, so I kind of looked like a bunny rabbit on stage. But that's all right, I wasn't the only one. Miss Lindstedt did also look like a bunny on stage, so I'm all right. We received our 2025 School of Excellence Award after a rigorous trial process with panel members going to them coming to us, this whole thing. But finally, Mr. Dustin got to ring the bell at the end of the day, and he looks so happy, and I'm so happy. And I'm so happy I snuck myself into this first picture, and I almost snuck myself into the third one, but it wouldn't have worked out cropping wise. So that's what I have for you today.
Hey,
Yeah.
awesome.
Great news. Any questions for Jaden?
I always have questions. I think it would be great for the capstone projects if you make sure that the school board is aware of when they are. Maybe we can come by, certainly see the chance for us to kind of view the products of the senior work. At least I think that would be a good opportunity if it's
Yeah.
allowed.
Yeah, I think they're gonna be held on Tuesdays starting May 6th.
Yeah. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah,
And again, I appreciate you highlighting all those activities. I think certainly there's a lot going on in the district, right? You just kind of scratching the surface there of
Oh,
all
yeah.
the stuff that goes on in the district. I think, myself, I have a little bit different, like there's some situations, right, where families have, a band concert one night and maybe a sports event the same night, which is not ideal.
Mhm.
But, it's a good problem to have, I think, in the sign of like a healthy, active school district with kids participating in a lot of activities. So certainly 2 ways to look at it. You could be like, oh, as a negative, like why can't we schedule around all this stuff? The fact is, you simply
too
can't.
much
There's
to
so much
schedule.
going on. You can't schedule around it. And,
Yeah.
you do the best that you can do and take advantage of the opportunities. So
Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
I think that's great.
Yeah, I was actually speaking with a staff member who has multiple children in the district, one in sports, the other in band. And she was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do tonight. I have to walk up from the field to go to this band concert and I'm gonna love it. And I was very proud of her because I don't think I would have been able to walk. But she's very devoted to, definitely devoted to her kids, so. Yeah, it's challenging, but it's so cool to think about big picture because you walk into this place and you see the lists of opportunities, activities, athletics, etc., job opportunities even, and you say, whoa, I could do a lot here. I don't have to just be a student. I can be all these things. So it's great.
Any other questions?
Yes, I was wondering if Jaden, when she's in college next year, will be coming back to give these reports still. This has been awesome.
Well, I'm only half an hour away, so we're done. I am one of the 17, Keene State, class of 2029. Very excited.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
I also just wanted to mention that in addition to the health and educational supplies, that the Interact Group is bringing down to the Dominican Republic. They're also bringing down approximately 80 prosthetic hands that have been donated by a medical equipment manufacturer in Massachusetts, and that the Interact students are bringing down to a surgeon in the DR who's going to install them.
Amazing. All right, on to the superintendent's report, please.
Couple of board members were able to also, I mean, we had a lot going on last week, but one of the items that wasn't talked about here was that last week on Friday, we had a celebration of learning over at Franklin Pierce University and one of the halls, and we had about 40 Jaffrey Grade School and Ringe Memorial School 4th and 5th grade learners presenting on this with college students, presenting their the Inquiry Scholars projects that they did, which were put on some colorful boards that were provided by Savron, free of charge, so donated to the cause. Then also we had the Writing Nest, which was at Ridge Memorial School. Those kids wrote stories. They created podcasts at the Fitzwater Center over in Franklin Pierce University. Did some other things in that recording studio as well with that. Just had some great experiences, brought their artifacts and what they had to show as well. You know, that was in another section of the auditorium that we were in. And so all of our learners who are involved in those projects, both the Inquiry Scholars at Jaffrey Grade School and the Writing Nest over at Ridge Memorial School, they received a certificate, and also the Jaffrey Ringe Education Foundation provided each child with a $20 gift certificate to Toadstool bookstore. So wanted to, and the Jaffrey Ringe Education Foundation, because they invited all these parents of these kids. So you had another 60 to 70 parents or so that were there, invited them all for lunch downstairs and paid for all of that as well. So the kids got to eat in the cafeteria over at the college, which was really nice. It was a really nice day. Kids did a fantastic job. We'll have pictures later on. But just wanted to talk about some of the neat things that the elementary school is involved with as well. They're also involved in a lot of field trips that are going on right now. Next year, the goal is to have both the Writing Nest at Jaffrey Grade School and at Ringe Memorial School. They've piloted it enough, and then also to expand or re-expand the Inquiry Scholars to do the same thing. And then maybe Inquiry Scholars actually up here at the middle school as well. We just have to look at schedules. So nice partnership, nice collaboration, good mentorship from the college students over at Franklin Pierce University. Special thanks to Tom Bennett, Dr. Tom Bennett, Dr. Joan Swanson, and also former teacher Laura Harding. She is the assistant recreation director, I believe, over at Franklin Pierce University, and she was the one who led the Writing Nest work over at RMS. Then I showed up to my first rehearsal today. May have been like the third rehearsal, but I showed up to that to run my lines. And so there were, as I was looking at them on the weekend and starting to memorize, I was like, wow, FDR had a lot more to say than what I recall. There are a few more songs involved than what I could remember. So, but I did get there a little bit today and went through it a couple times. So that was good. Originally, when I agreed to do it, I thought the play was going to be during the weekend of prom, but I think prom took over. And so I had already made a commitment to Keene State College. I'm their commencement speaker for their graduate program. So I'll be doing that at 7 o'clock. And I think we've got it situated that even if we have to have an extended time in between, the acts, I'll get there for that third act, I guess it is, or the second act, but the third scene. And on opening night, so it's going to be fun. I'm excited. I haven't done something like this in a long time, so I was actually feeling a little nervous today. So it was good.
It is going to be really humbling to go from
It's
being
good.
commencement speaker at Keene State graduate to
Yeah.
FDR on the high school stage.
Yeah,
It's going to
yeah.
be a really humbling evening. It's going to be fun.
I think it's gonna be a fun evening.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be, have a lot, there's gonna be a lot of energy. I'm gonna have a lot of butterflies. So that'll be good. Actually, as an aside, just rehearsing, being up on stage with, I had 7 or 8 other, of our students here up there, and they of course know their lines. It's a good feeling. Yeah, it's really nice to be side by side. And I think that we might have some other people that are in the play. I don't know. Chris, maybe? Is that true?
Yeah, my daughter recruited me as well. So
I think you're actually helping me out, is what I
We'll
understand.
see.
Yeah, we'll see.
tell people that we don't want to spoil the whole thing.
No.
My singing debut, I guess. So I don't know.
Oh,
if
that's
a-
right. I didn't even
if
think
that's
about
a
the fact
reason
that you'd be singing.
to show up or stay away.
Yeah, maybe a reason. It could be bad. It could be bad. All right.
Luckily, everyone else is really talented.
It's gonna be good. So it will be a different play. And I think we have elementary kids coming up as well, because I was leaving as the Jaffrey grade school kids were coming in. And I don't know if there are any Ridge Memorial School students.
Yeah, there are. So it's really nice. And
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, we have
Very district wide.
school board, faculty, administration.
Yep.
And representatives from each of the schools. So
Mhm.
it's pretty cool.
Very
They
good.
do a really good job of incorporating the younger district members. I remember when my first year here in 6th grade, I was in Cinderella. I think that was the first time they've like really allowed middle school to be in it. But they also had grade schoolers being little mice and whatnot, and they make a fun day out of it.
Mhm.
It's always fun with them.
And then I thought that it would be good to kind of piggyback on what Jaden already announced with the Eddies Awards, and they came and had the assembly, and there's more to come. But today I received the press release that we sent to the Ledger, and I think that we might send to another location or two. We'll put it out there for the community, but just wanted to read it into the minutes and just what the committee had to say. And then, of course, from a note-taking standpoint, we can just cut and paste all this, so you don't need to actually type it out. It reads this: the Jaffrey Ridge Cooperative School District is proud to announce that the Conant Middle High School has been selected as the 2025 High School of Excellence by the New Hampshire Excellence in Education Awards. This honor recognizes the school's unwavering commitment to personalized learning, academic excellence, student empowerment, and community partnership. Conant Middle High School stood out in a competitive statewide review process that included in-depth application analysis and on-site visits by experienced educators and community leaders. The school's dynamic culture of innovation, rigor, and reflection was evident across every aspect of its programming. We are extremely proud of the work that we have done to personalize learning and expand opportunities despite any roadblocks we may face, says Principal David Dustin. Conant Middle High School has exceptional staff who work hard every day to create and sustain a rigorous and quality educational experience for everyone in our school community. We are proud to be recognized for this achievement and continue our journey of reflection, development, hard work, and growth to support all learners. At the heart of Conant's success is its proficiency-based learning model, built on can-do skill progressions aligned with Bloom's taxonomy. This structure allows for deep personalization. Students can demonstrate mastery in multiple ways by pursuing interests that are meaningful to them. Instructional practices are flexible yet rigorous, with assessment options designed to meet students where they are while pushing them to grow. Rubin states that celebrated the achievement, stating, Conant has developed a culture of inclusivity, collegiality, shared leadership, and high expectations. This extraordinary culture drives us to innovate and ensures that all individuals thrive in their lives and communities. Conant's programming is grounded in its vision of the graduate, which informs every student's learning pathway from freshman year through graduation. Students begin their high school experience with a Foundations for the Future course and continue to build towards senior capstones. Now, reflect real-world application and personalized goals. The school's data-driven instruction ensures that no learner is left behind through ongoing assessment, educators identify needs, provide timely interventions, and expand enrichment offerings aligned with student interests. Professional learning communities play a central role in continuously refining instruction to support academic growth. Additionally, Conant's deep ties to the local community enhance student learning through extended learning opportunities, career exploration, and service initiatives. Students are empowered to propose new clubs, shape school activities, and pursue unique learning experiences that reflect their passion and goals. Conant Middle High School will be formally honored at the New Hampshire Excellence in Education Award celebration on June 7th, 2025, where it will be recognized as a model of student-centered excellence for the state. New Hampshire Excellence in Education. The New Hampshire Excellence in Education Award aims to acknowledge schools and individuals within New Hampshire who demonstrate high standards of excellence. This celebration is made possible through the combined efforts of various statewide education associations, our committed board of directors, and the generous support of sponsors from across the Granite State. It acts as a powerful catalyst, showcasing exceptional public schools, initiatives, and educators, setting a precedent to inspire and drive excellence throughout the entire state. So congratulations to Conant Middle High School for being the high school of excellence in 2025 in the state of New Hampshire.
Yay.
Congratulations.
That is my report.
Any questions, any comments?
Lisa, just one comment. I wanted to thank Ruben for sending an email last week, telling us about the inquiry scholars, actually reminding us, because I happened to be free. As a result of that email, I showed up, and it was very impressive. I was, must have been close to 40 students, and Principal Zilski was there, Deanna
Mhm.
and Ruben, and a dozen or more Franklin Pierce students,
Mhm.
all the way from senior through freshman, and many of them in education or in these sciences, and they really put on quite a show. It was great.
So when my girls were in that program many years ago, and they did their presentation, because I was not able to go last week, I'm wondering, like, they had to do an oral presentation as well, basically. Was that still, which is such an amazing experience, because they spent so long doing their research and then figuring out how to make it look nice on their results, make the results look nice on the board. And then reviewing with the college students how to do the oral presentation. And to see these shy, at one point in time, both my friends were shy, little girls proudly presenting their data was amazing to me. It was just, and to go from person to person and ask questions was just so cool. Such an amazing program, and I'm thrilled that it's happening again. You know, Americans' #1 fear is public speaking. So when you can get those kids to, or used to be, that to have that experience at such a young age, it's very cool.
I got to speak with Tom afterwards the next day, and my kids went through it before your kids. You know, this is just such a beloved tradition.
Yeah.
With Franklin Pierce students now. This is such an incredible investment that Franklin Pierce puts through, and that our schools accommodate and drive the interest. And it's just such a great symbiotic relationship. Just really very powerful.
Lisa, just had one more comment, and it really relates to Jaden's report. I forgot to mention it at the moment. But the practice testing for the June assessments, I think that's awesome. You know, we don't like to think of assessments as the most critical thing, but you know, they're oftentimes held up as the real indicator. And so I think if you are familiar with what's done in schools throughout the state and the country. And a lot of the schools, especially the well-endowed schools, practicing for those tests is very, very regular and big deal. And I think it's great that we're doing that here because, I mean, we're being held to these standards and getting kids prepared, knowing how many pencils and how to fill in the boxes. I mean, those are just the starting places, but little things that keep you from, doing your best or being distracted. You overcome them in those practice tests.
Yes, and particularly with the typical crowd of who goes after these courses and takes these exams, typically they end up being incredibly anxious or nervous and afraid of failing. So just giving them one additional piece of something that can make them feel like they are capable of conquering this, even though they've been studying for the last 6 months, they've been studying all of it. It helps so much, because who's gonna do better on the test? Someone shaking in their bones because they're so afraid of failing, or someone who says, "Hey, I've got this," you know?
Well, I've got to say, if you're taking the AP exams, you're already like pretty top student. I mean, you gotta admit that. That's pretty impressive. Yeah.
And I'd like to ask some questions about the Eddies. How many people, students and faculty community were involved in the process of the application and the reviews and interviews?
I don't know if I have that exact number, but I can show you the picture that I think Jaden had up here.
Wow.
So whoops, sorry. All those individuals on stage had a part in one of the levels at least, maybe or one or more. And so I know that when I went to Concord with, I think during either round 3 or round 2, I can't remember, it was round 2, I think it was, I reported out on it. It was a smaller group of individuals, maybe 6 or 7 teachers, some administrators who were presenting the nuts and bolts of the school from a curriculum standpoint, from a data standpoint, et cetera. I think there were some learners who were asked to come along during that time frame, but I think we had other field trips and so forth. Yeah, I think you had actually, Aiden actually had indicated that I couldn't make this one, but I hope that we're in the next round. We were in the next round, so that was great. So however many that is, it looks like what, 35, maybe 40.
That's just amazing.
Mhm.
And thank you for everybody who was involved in that.
Yes. Actually, so there were a lot of different jobs that learners volunteered for. There were tour guides, which just kind of helped out at the beginning of the day. There were people who sat in the library and showed pieces of curriculum and ways that they applied the success criteria usage, and kind of just broke it down so that they could see that it's not just teacher lingo and we actually know what it is and why it's beneficial, because that's something that can be so easily overlooked. We've actually had time to get it so implemented that we understand it now. That was something we didn't have when this first started. That was something when I was in 6th or 7th grade and it was being introduced to me. I said, I have no idea what this is or why I'm doing it. But now as I'm discussing it with these other people who are judging my school and figuring out whether we deserve this award, I can confidently say what it is, why it's there, and how it helps me. There were also individuals who assisted staff members in leading just small presentations specific to certain aspects of the judging criteria from the Eddies group. There were other things too. There were small table groups, just discussion groups there just a lot of learner input, which I think when you provide that framework from a staff member perspective, I think it's really incredibly beneficial to add learners into it just to kind of bring it some life and make it less of a structure and more of a just a thing that's actually being implemented and something that's not just an idea. It's something that we're actually doing, and it's something that is helping us grow more than we could have otherwise.
Wow.
So lots of good things happening. To sum it up.
All right, we are on to donations.
Yeah, I'll just go down to where they are. I'm trying to find them. There we go. So the donation, the balance of the ATC funds, that is, that came from Jeff Clark-Van, former school board member. He had those funds in an account. I think actually, it was from him, and then it went to Jack Beltate. Anyway, then it came over our way. So basically there was a trust fund at one point in time that was more or less a trust fund that was put aside for the purpose of CTE, specifically it would have been originally not the construction trades, but the building trades. So it was carpentry. And so since that group is no longer, they wanted to make sure that that money went back to fund the purpose of what it was there for. So that's that piece. And then the Delta Airlines Foundation to CMHS Robotics and CHS Drama. This is really the first of the donations of when people indicated from the community, we need to give back and we need to try to help and so forth. This was one of those efforts, the first of that kind. I believe, see if it's labeled here. I've spoken. Yes. Yeah, it's right there. So 2,000 to the high school drama club student activity fund, and then 8,000 to the CMHS robotics team student activity fund. And we have Laurel McKenzie here tonight also in the audience, who I think would like to see the $8,000 in the CMHS robotics team student activity fund. There's a lot you could do with that.
I would add that,
Is it okay for Ms.
Yeah.
McKenzie to talk? Ms. McKenzie, Laurel McKenzie from Jaffrey, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure that,
Yeah, hang on a second.
Otherwise, probably at home.
it's a terrific donation from the Delta Airlines Foundation, and this was really, facilitated by the Charles family, whose boys participate in the program. And, it's terrific that they were able to leverage this, for the donation for the, two clubs.
Wonderful.
Of course, this does remind me about the need for storage for robotics.
Yep.
We've been promised to space for next year.
Fantastic.
Are there any other items of the consent agenda that we want to review before approving?
Can we, I should have mentioned this before, can we move the nominations out of the consent agenda and
I
do it?
didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, can we remove the nominations out of the consent agenda and do them separately?
Okay. So there's a
Afterwards or
motion.
whatever.
Is there a second?
Second,
Christine, second. Thank you. All in favor?
Just only because my name's on there.
Sure. Did we go through the process of accepting
Let's
the
accept the donation first, yeah.
donations first? Because that's where
Well, I
we
was
were
gonna
at.
put
Oh.
it into the consent agenda. So thought we discussed that first. It's still part of the consent agenda,
Okay.
so we'll still approve.
Sure.
I didn't think they were separated out for approval, but we can do that.
Well, they
right
were
now.
under action items, so we would hold them from action items. So if you wanted to do them separately,
Oh, they
Yeah.
wasn't in the thing.
they
Yeah, I
weren't
was
in,
trying to
they
find it.
weren't in the consent.
You're
agenda.
absolutely
Yep,
right. It
yep.
wasn't in the consent agenda.
Yep.
That's a lot of nominations. Okay, excuse me.
I
And
move that we
thank
accept
you.
the donation, the balance of the ATC funds, 879248, and the acceptance of the donation from the Delta Airlines Foundation to CMHS Robotics and the Drama Club as presented.
Second.
Sandy, thank you, John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any further discussion? I should have said that. I think we're good. All right. Any opposed? Abstained? Great. That passes 700.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's amazing.
Now, Chris, you were motioning to remove the nominations? from the
Yeah, I think
Consent
we should-
agenda.
Separately, only because my
Okay.
name is on there.
Yep,
So-
Christine, did you second that?
Yes.
Or some, Judy, who seconded that, please?
Sure.
Judy? Thank you. All right, all in favor of removing the nominations from the consent agenda? Say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 700. In the consent agenda, we have the minutes. Make sure to take a moment to make sure that you are in the, no.
No,
we took
minutes
them
are
out, we took
separate.
them out.
Yep.
Stipends, everything is, this is a big list. Okay,
Mhm.
transportation, so it's mostly,
Manifest payroll.
yeah, manifest payroll
Budget
and
transfer.
then the budget transfer. Okay. I'll take a motion.
Just one second. Is this the budget transfer that was added today, student services? Okay.
Great. All right. There a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you, Chris. Second.
Second.
Thank you, John. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. On to the nominations. Is there a motion to accept the nomination list?
I'll make a motion to accept the nominations.
Thank you, Charlie. Is there a second?
Second.
Who's that?
Judy.
Thank you,
Judy,
Judy.
yep.
Any discussion?
Am I missing something? Because I don't see Chris's name in this nomination list.
He's in there.
Third from the bottom.
Yeah, third or fourth, one of those. Yeah, third. Well, internal transfers, was that
So your list,
taken out as well?
he's right above
Yeah.
here. So where did, was this the list in your email?
Yeah.
Okay, look on the school website, has the updated.
Okay.
All right,
Ooh. Head coach. Wow, wow.
you're in public session. What's interesting?
Head coach, he's the head coach.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not an assistant
There you
coach.
go, Chris.
Yeah, wow.
It's actually, you know, in general, right, we fund one position. I think the good thing about this, and I think about a lot of other things in our school, is essentially we have like 3 coaches for the price of 1, which is great when you have a team of 30 kids. You know, I think it's just another example of how we do kind of less with more. I did some calculations to figure out like the cost per hour to the school district for like having 3 coaches for this team, and it's about $5.30 an hour if you do it. So it's pretty good. So, I mean, we have a lot of coaches out there that do it again. Because they like to give back to kids, right? It's not for the $5 an hour.
All right,
Almost
can I have a motion for the nominations? Did we already?
Thought I already made one.
Yeah.
Charlie did and Judy did. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstain. One abstain. So it's 601. Okay. On to the minutes. Is there a motion to accept the minutes and approve them for 4-7 non-public and 4-7 public meeting?
I make a motion to approve the minutes for 4/7/2025 for non-public meeting and for 4/7/2025 meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Judy. Any discussion? All those who approve, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And abstentions? Charlie, thank you. So that passes 601. On to further action items. We have a field trip approval for the 6th grade to go to the Worcester Art Museum. And we have setting the last day of school and the school year calendar. So do we want to do this? Why don't we do this piece by piece? Can we approve the field trip first? All right, let's entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 6th grade field trip to the Worcester Art Museum.
Thank you, Chris. There's a second.
Second.
Thank you, Charlie. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you very much. Okay, let's take a look at the calendar for next year.
Okay, since the last time we talked, we had some feedback from the school board. We had some feedback from JREA, from the JRAO, and some JRSSA as well for this. But the primarily from JREA, as that's, you know, in our contract as well. One, it's good practice. Two, it's in the contract to go back a couple times to get in the process to get feedback as we work through this. And so some things that we did change, it was almost, you know, unanimous with every group, including the school board, to go 2 weeks at December. So I didn't have a lot of information on the JRSSA, but except that the JRSSA was the information that came back to me this year with the 2 weeks was that it was appreciated. One thing we did with the JRSSA that we didn't do in the past with this last contract was we added some holidays to their contract, which do come into that area. And in talking with the business office, if there are needs to shift you know, reductions for healthcare and things of that nature, they can spread them out afterwards, which is typically done. So it's not as though it will have too much harm in that area. That was the major change. Of course, that pushes the end date out, and I'll talk about June in just a second. There was some feedback about professional development days, whether we should have a January 1 or whether that should be at the 22nd, which is before the Memorial Day, or, you know, this Memorial Day weekend. The benefit to having one in January for the school district's continued movement is real. At that point in the year, you're halfway through the year, you're looking at data and so forth. It's important to be able to do that. We've had them sometimes and we haven't had them sometimes. I know that having that in January is important. We did have some questions whether we could start the teachers on the 25th with professional development as opposed to the 22nd. In talking with all the groups, there's just starting the year, especially this coming year, because of the perhaps less preparation we're going to be able to do during the summertime. We're going to need all the time we could possibly have in advance. The other thing we could do is certainly start school on a Friday, but that would be tough. And the 28th is the day that Messinic and Conval have agreed to start on. Originally, we were actually going to come back the 21st for teachers and then have the first day be the 27th, but Conval needed more time and we wanted to make sure that it made sense with their schedule. In this calendar, it features a little bit more, like fewer holes, I'll call it, or skips. So for instance, in November, because of that Tuesday, that 4th not being a relevant voting day, we're able to put the teacher conference on the 10th so that we have 3 days in a row as opposed to students coming in on Monday, not being there on Tuesday, and then coming back. Plus that gives families these 4-day weekends in several locations during the year. And having back-to-back professional development days in March, while it's not necessarily, it would appear that it's not important for the other 2 school districts, it is important to this school district to have those days because of all the work that's happening. And elementary in particular with the literacy work. And then I know that they'll be looking next year at a little bit harder on mathematics as well. They're going to need time, all the time that they could possibly have. So it puts you in June, and I think the last one we had was the last day was going to be the 15th, and then, you know, we had a few days kind of in there where we tell people it could be a little bit more depending on whether we have snow days and so forth. I think if we can commit to having, no more than 1 or 2 snow days and making sure that we can implement some other types of learning, approaches that we've done in the past, we can keep the number of extra days shortened or a little more finite, and try to make sure that that teachers aren't going past the 19th. Now, June 19th again is a holiday. So that is something to consider. The idea really, if the 17th is the final day, then the 18th would actually be the unencumbered day for teachers for next year. This will give us about 3 days off of the other school districts, which is going to happen. And Messina has its own things that it wants to do a day or two here, and Conval is pretty straightforward with theirs is consistent year to year.
Any discussion?
Yes, this is going to relate to the next calendar too. That June 19th, is that a work day, not a work day, or is it?
It's a
I know.
federal holiday.
So
But-
all right, so well, it's good to have a conversation. Here, it would be, in theory, a work day if we ended school on the 18th. Right now, 17th is the last day. And if that's the case next year, then the 18th would be the unencumbered day, and then nothing after that. For this year, I am going to recommend that we had 2 snow days. We add those 2 days back. That makes everyone, all our workers, everyone, all the contracts whole. But I recommend that we have a half day on that last day.
Well, let's do this one first.
Yep.
Can somebody make a motion to approve this calendar?
I move that we approve the 25-26 school year calendars presented.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, John. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And abstain? Okay, passes 7-0-0. And now on to this school year calendar.
So the 17th is it's actually very similar to next year's. Last day, we had 2 snow days. I'm recommending we make up those 2 snow days. Even though we have hours, I think it's a good message that we, believe that kids should be in school. We say 177 days, it's already shy of 180 days. Internationally, that's very light as well. We keep on talking about, making sure that our kids have rich learning experiences. We can have rich learning experiences at the end of the year as well. Matter of fact, the warmer weather provides more opportunity to do outdoor learning or outdoor activities and so forth. So I think there's some value in doing that. Our JRSSA members, that makes them who are school year employees anyway, allows them to have those 2 days without professional development that might not be as helpful at the end of the year. With a category of people who also, many, if we do professional development, some of them won't be here the following year as well. So that's, I think that's making the last day a half day, 19th, so they can, make sure that the kids have, whether it be any types of activities at the very end, half day, have lunch, and go home for the summer. And then that gives the teachers that second, or employees, that second half of the day to have any meetings that they need to have, and then their unencumbered day is truly unencumbered the next day, to be able to clean up their rooms.
Okay, but are we having them come to school on June?
It would be for a half day is what I'm suggesting.
I think that could not
Mhm.
be a good idea. I think it's not showing sensitivity to the fact that it's an important holiday to some people, and it's a federal holiday. I think it should be a holiday.
Okay. Any further discussion on the calendar for this year? All right,
I want to agree with Judy. I want to keep kids in school as long as possible. I also feel at this time, we need to be extremely sensitive
And respect.
and respectful.
okay, we'll take a motion to approve the calendar.
So moved.
Okay, second,
I'll
Second.
sec-
thank you, Charlie. So John and Charlie, okay, let's do further discussion.
So what would you propose an alternative? Just end on the 18th?
That's what I would. Or we go the full month of June. Since we don't have
That would
any
be
real summer
20,
learning.
Yeah. yeah.
In my opinion, I would like to respect Juneteenth and have school end the 18th.
Yes, that I agree. And if we need an extra day, we'll push it forward into the next week, but we can't. Disrespect Juneteenth. That would be just not a nice thing.
Judy and Christine, I'm very sorry. I'm not hearing you clearly.
We have to respect Juneteenth just because it is a meaningful holiday for a lot of other towns, even though we might not be as in tune with it here. So I think it should be a holiday for the students. And they should come to school on Friday, and if they have to. On New Year.
But no one's gonna show up.
Well, I cannot agree with,
We could just end it on the 18th though, and not do
Yeah.
it day on the 19th as an
yeah,
alternative.
yeah, that's okay too. That's okay too, but I don't want to disrespect Juneteenth.
Another alternative, I'm gonna throw out another alternative. This is not necessarily, this goes against my recommendation and reasons, but to give you what has been done in the past, when COVID hit, we did create an MOU with the various bargaining units about paying them in a different way. And so you could end on the 17th, for instance, and then simply make an MOU with the JRSSA indicating that people who are, because of a holiday and things of that nature, or you could end on the 18th, I suppose, because of that holiday, you could end up paying them for that time frame if you wanted to as well, without them, working. That's another avenue. It's a little more complicated. Carrie's on vacation. She's not here to weigh in, and I have not discussed this with her, but we have done that before. So that's another process.
Does anyone else have thoughts on Juneteenth? Curious.
So I think Judy makes a good point. And what Ruben, the suggestion you were just making, is that relate to the support staff? Who are
Yeah.
not on
Mostly. Yeah, I haven't thought it out too well, because I just brought it up, but it's the premise of it would be honoring the 108, what ends up being 187 days for school year paraprofessionals. Other individuals are here all year long. If you cancel the day, I suppose, we'd have to look at all hourly employees. It would not impact exempt employees.
No.
So it's the hourly employees that we have to be concerned with. Basically, what you could say is that the board would like to, in that case, board would like to add, a holiday for the school district on that day. That's one way of looking at it.
Where would the funds come from to pay the support staff?
Well,
the
support
holiday.
staff already, the funds are already in the budget for that day.
Okay,
Um,
so it would not be
it's,
taking from
it's,
anyone, it would be recouping money.
it would be looking at other non-exempt staff in the districts. I assume that the district, what you're really saying is the district should not be functioning during the time frame. So you have SAU non-exempt and you have what other group? Well, your and your JRSSA year-long staff, custodians and all that. Now, all of that, that is all budgeted. They just wouldn't have anyone working on that day is the idea. You just need to be aware of that. That the district has typically functioned under hours worked, hours paid. And so if you're gonna veer from that, we just have a little bit of work to do to make memorandum of understanding saying this is a one-time exception to how we do business with the associations. We have to ask them if they're be willing to do that, of course. And that's not that hard with the SAU exempt and non-exempt. That's relatively easy. We don't have to do any MOUs for that.
Well, I think the rest of the board knows the best of how to get it done, but I just know that needs to be a holiday for the district.
I think the thing would be to make it, consider it a holiday, eliminate that from the hunt, we're not gonna make that up. So maybe we come the 18th and then the unencumbered days on the 20th, which is what the day would be, but we're saying the 19th is, that the 18th would be the last day.
And
And it could be a half day.
so we have a motion and a second, but because I think that we didn't fully hear
Yeah.
everything, do you want to make a motion to amend this calendar in a second?
I want to make a motion to amend it.
I believe the person who made the original motion has to amend it.
So what this will mean, now that we have people who are willing to do this, what this will mean is the board will vote on this calendar. And then should enough of the board say no to this calendar, then we will seek the amendment to change this to have the holiday on the 19th, on June 19th. Now, the truth is, actually, we don't need to do that. It's still approving this calendar, I believe, right? It's
Well,
simply saying, do we want the board to approve a holiday for the staff on June 19th? Would that be correct? Because they're still
Yeah.
being paid for that day.
Yeah.
So this is the paid calendar right here.
Right.
Is this going in free conflict with the JREA, CBA? Because this is the problem with the 2 weeks of vacation.
So it is the problem with the 2 weeks of vacation. Let's continue to have discussion.
Yeah.
There's another path. We could end and have the last day on the 17th, which is what it currently is. Ignore the 2 days of, we had 2 days of snow days, all right? And then you can have your unencumbered day on the 18th for teachers and have paraprofessionals come that day. We'll have to work the PD out, or maybe they're helping with the end of the day rooms work or whatever. We'll have to work with the JRSSA on that. And then make that same 19th a holiday for the district, which would include that final day for the JRSSA. You know what I mean? It would accomplish the same thing, but not push the JRAA out a day past the last day of school. Sorry, like with a separation. Yeah.
So that option is changing this calendar.
Mhm.
So what this is gonna take is a majority vote to say no to this, to end on the 17th instead, and then move
This is on the 17th.
This one ends on the 17th. Well, the original motion, so that we're clear, the original motion, I believe, was in reference to my original recommendation, which was end on the 19th on a half day and have the unencumbered day on the 20th. That's apart from the reason why you're talking about this, which I agree 100%. It's clean. It's the cleanest of the scenarios. So you'd want to vote on that one and then either make another motion or something, amend a motion or something to that effect.
Okay.
Okay,
I mean, I think
I'll move
It's-
that we vote.
No, we already have a second and
Yep.
so we're all set to vote. I just
Okay.
want to know if there's any more discussion. Because we do have three options. So what we're voting on right now is the recommendation, and it's hard without seeing the actually, so the recommendation is basically to have a half day on the 19th. And that is and that's for staff, and students are done on the 17th, we're correct?
the,
When are students done on this?
the motion that's been made is students would end on the 19th. Staff, JREA staff would end on the 20th.
Okay,
That's
And the
the,
19th
that's the
would be
motion.
half a
And
day.
then a lot of discussion took place.
Yeah.
That was contrary to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we can just finish out, or someone could remove their motion, right? Can we not? If that's something you'd want to do?
Yeah.
Whoever made the motion in the first place could say, I'd like to,
The maker can withdraw.
yeah,
Before it's voted on, yeah.
yep.
all right. So Charlie, do you want to remove
Did I make it or did John?
John, was it John and Sandy? Okay.
Yes,
John did it. John did it.
I gotta
I would,
You're not sleeping after all.
remove my motion.
Okay, all right. Cool. All right.
So then we could ask for
New motion.
a new motion and someone could create the parameters around that. All right. Christine's
I'd
gonna,
like to make a motion that the last day of school remains on June 17th for students.
full day or half day?
Full day.
I'm inclined to say a full day, but I know that at JGS, there's a tradition of the talent show and then students are released immediately after that.
Mhm.
Hate to mess with that tradition.
We typically have half days on the last day.
Yeah. So I would say a half day, boy, we're cutting it really,
Mhm.
anyway. And then that would make June 18th the unencumbered day for staff,
Teachers, yeah.
teachers. And then there was another part to that too. Was there?
And name June 19th a paid
And as part of that, Juneteenth,
holiday for those who would apply to.
exactly. And Juneteenth would be a paid holiday for those that would be applicable for. That's quite the motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Thank you, Judy. Discussion?
All those in favor?
Well, no, this is important. I want
Okay,
some
okay.
discussion on this.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
So one more time, because it's very difficult for me to hear down there.
Okay.
Right? What is this going to do
Half day, June 17th,
for everybody?
students,
Students?
Yeah.
Okay,
and then,
staff, faculty and everybody is full day.
yep, and then the staff comes back in on the 18th,
18th.
All staff.
Okay.
all staff, and then the 19th is a holiday for those that have that benefit.
It'll be a holiday, so people wouldn't,
Paid holiday.
it would be a paid holiday. People would have, anyone exempt would have the day, not, the day off basically. But those who are non-exempt would then be paid their typical rate, yes.
Right.
Is the idea.
Okay, is everybody clear on this iteration? All right, so we have a motion and a second.
And you would give the superintendent to be able to enter into whatever conversations with the JRSSA in particular to solidify that motion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I will say, since there's no more discussion on this point, I will say I am having a hard time cutting a day and a half of instructional time. That's hard for me to do. I very, very much appreciate Juneteenth. This is a lot of instructional time we're cutting out. It's also June 17th. Which is hard to say. There's gonna be, I get it that, no, our teachers go to I get it. We have an incredible staff and we have incredible students. They'll take advantage of every moment. So I am having a hard time with that.
How much are you gonna learn? How much would you learn in those last day and a half, Jaden?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm.
Jaden's
graduating the
gone
week
the
before,
13th.
so this is like-
That answers that
To
question.
speak colloquially, not my problem. But to speak professionally.
And to move
I
the
wish them the
graduation to
best.
the 20th, is that right? The senior graduation to the 20th?
No, you're not.
All right, all in favor of this iteration of changing the end school date for students to a half day on June 17th? The 18th becomes an unencumbered day for staff. The 19th is a paid holiday for the staff that would relate to. And pending conversation that Ruben has and approval with the various contract groups, collective bargaining groups that need this discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, passes 7-0-0.
Okay, this does now add a complication.
Timing.
Telling us about that now.
I'm telling you, well, it has nothing to do with this year
Okay.
now. It has to do with next year's that we've just approved. So, in theory, we talked about it, right? So we did talk about the fact that in theory, the 18th is the unencumbered day and the 19th wouldn't be there. So do we want to just deal with this next year in a similar fashion?
I
Or,
think we have to because
Yep.
of snow days
Okay.
and catastrophes
All right.
and
Yep.
plagues and locusts. I think we need to deal with that one later.
the locust will be here. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Cool. Request to waive facility fees. Ringe Rec Department Basketball Camp, RMS Gym, July 7th to July 11th, 2025. Ringe Rec Department Summer Basketball Camp, RMS Gym, 7/14 to 7/18. Do we have a motion to approve this waiver?
I'll make a motion to approve the request to waive facility fees for both weeks.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Chris. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you. Passes 7-0-0. We have a couple of policies. And Ruben, would you mind if I actually took over the projection for a bit?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi. So the policy first that we have for second reading is the conflict of interest policy. We are simply updating it with the New Hampshire School Board Association policy. This is a recommended policy, but it just outlined a little clearer our roles in how we hire specifically. And should people be hired who are family members, close relations to a board member, then there's conversations that need to happen. So I hope you guys, this is second reading. I hope you guys have taken a look at this. Nothing at all that we don't already do whatsoever. This kind of just outlined it a little better. This was last updated by New Hampshire School Board Association in 2017. And I know that there's bills out there to have these conversations further, so I could definitely see this coming back on our plate in a year or two. But right now, as a recommended policy, I think we believe that the New Hampshire School Board one is a lot clearer with what it's asking from us.
I don't think it's clear.
I'm sorry,
I
what?
said, I do not believe that it's clear
That it is clearer than our current policy?
in some aspects, yes.
Huh,
Are you talking about this second paragraph?
I'm talking about
Yep.
the third paragraph and
all right,
the existing
all right. Third paragraph of which one?
2, 3, 4th paragraph of the existing
of the New Hampshire School Board Association one on nepotism.
Of the existing policy.
I wish I
Okay.
could hear you.
The way
Charlie.
I read the new policy, the New Hampshire School Board one, if my brother worked for the district and there was some measure before the board that provided him with a financial benefit, all right, that I would not have to tell people of that relationship. I could vote on that measure, and I could also try to influence other board members to vote on that measure. Right, so the way this reads, okay, I could absolutely, without the public knowing it, I could absolutely vote for a financial benefit for a very close relative. And I don't think that that was the intent of our original policy. I don't think the timing is right to tell the public that we want to do that yet.
I guess I'm not clear. I'm reading it and
I think it's,
it's saying that we have to be transparent.
Tell me where in here it talks anything about a benefit to a close relative.
I'm not sure I understand, Charlie. What do you mean by benefit to a close relative?
If my brother worked for the school district, he is a close relative.
Mhm.
All right, according to this, I do not have to announce to anyone if there's a measure before the board that results in him receiving a financial benefit. I do not have to announce to anyone that my brother is getting this benefit.
isn't that what's in the next paragraph?
Yeah,
It says, however, the board member shall declare that relationship
it says
and
it,
refrain from debating, discussing, or voting on a nomination or other issue. It's just in the,
Debating, discussing, or voting on a nomination. Okay, it does not talk about any kind of benefit. Which the paragraph on the old policy does. So it would make it very clear if you just took the paragraph of the old policy and put it in the new policy.
okay. We can definitely take this back to policy, which is gonna be meeting soon. And we can take this back to the two of them and see if we want to put things together. I have no problem with that. Does that sound something to table second reading?
well, and I want to talk about that second paragraph because maybe I'm just reading it incorrectly.
The second paragraph or
Yeah.
the second paragraph in nepotism?
No, the second paragraph. A board member who has a personal or private interest in a matter proposed or pending before the board will disclose such interest to the board, will not deliberate on the matter, and so on. Is personal and private interest defined someplace? Because I think that would make it impossible for us to vote on anything.
Yes.
I mean, someone could argue that every homeowner in our
Yeah.
has a personal interest in the school looking its best because of property values and therefore shouldn't vote. I mean, it just seems, am I making too much of that?
So I believe, and we can talk more about this, but I believe the second sentence where it says personal pecuniary interest. In reading through this, these were intended to avoid financial gain. And it related to people newly hired. So it wasn't that a board member who has, I mean, we have to have personal interests. That's why we have local school boards.
Right.
So we have family members who are involved in our schools. But this was particular to financial gain. So exactly the scenario that Charlie just said, where we're gonna contract with somebody and I'm not gonna disclose that, but our family's gonna get lots of money for doing the painting in the rooms or something, but I'm not gonna tell anybody about it. So there were some specific things here. It's just, and if you read on, it goes into detail a bit about, this is about money. It's very clear. This is about buying goods, commodities, other personal property. And again, this is a recommended policy. which I think is probably why New Hampshire School Board Association has not updated it since 2017. But we can go back to the board. What I'm going to recommend, please, though, is that all board members please email the policy committee, which is Charlie, Chris, and myself. Please email us one at a time, whatever. Email us with these discussion points. Okay, please review this. Please see if there's more things we want to put into it. If you find other policies elsewhere that you feel fit better, please send those to us. Our meeting is on May 1st. Okay, so cool. All right, so that will be tabled. All right. The next one is a first reading of a mandatory policy. And this is something we do not currently have. It is required by law. And it is talking about alternative credit options. Really in alignment, actually many alignments. So it says revision notes, March 2025. There was a minor correction with a bullet point. And there was an added reference in September 2021 of awarding credit for another school. So this is for first reading. Please review this. And we'll have a second reading at the next meeting. Again, this is a priority one. We should have had this on the books. Okay.
Is this something that's been, administration has read?
I'm sorry, what?
Has administration read this?
I don't know. I hope that they read what's in the minutes. I do not know.
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
the agenda.
a lot of this is addressed, or if not all of it, within the, handbooks at the
Okay.
middle high school. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I can't imagine any piece of this is new to what our practice is
Mhm.
and what's written elsewhere in the handbook and I really don't think so, but that would be
I mean, for
great if
instance,
they could
seventh
take a
and
look.
eighth grade coursework, for instance, that bullet point, I mean, we actually probably have an easier time of meeting requirements at seventh and eighth grade and then pushing them beyond than most schools do because we're connected the way we're built here.
Okay.
And so we have the college credits with the virtual learning opportunities, the ELOs, we talked about that tonight. Mastery, matter of fact, a lot of places don't have their work, their what is defined as mastery and so forth laid out in curriculum. That was one of the pieces that, they had to present for the School of Excellence was the complete documentation of curriculum and explanation of what things were. So these are not,
Okay.
it's not a bad policy.
And one thing important to note is what I have up on the screen is all the policies. This is a conglomerate of.
Mhm.
So which is really why we don't have it, because we do have the majority of these policies, but Wendy, I will absolutely look through and make sure that that's aligned, before our next thing. So these are all covered other places again, but this is nice having a clearinghouse. The other piece, if you go down, it does mention funding unless otherwise recommended by the superintendent and approved by the board. Under ordinary circumstances, students or their parents, guardians are responsible for all related expenses, including tuition and textbooks. The district may pay the fee for expelled students who are permitted to take courses in alternative settings. And so there's pieces of this that do involve funding. So yeah, please, if you wouldn't mind, Ruben, having people's eyes on it, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Any discussion items? I want to, when we have I don't know if it's here or board matters, I have a calendar for our committee assignments that I'd like us to finalize, but we can do that in a little bit if you want. The one discussion item I do have is I created a Google sheet of what a sample of our school board calendar would be. This is based on the last year's school board calendar. And so what I will do is share this with you guys to take a look at. And we can take a look and see if there's any edits that we want to make. And maybe at the next meeting, we can add to the agenda school board meeting calendar. So I'll share that with you guys. This is not the budget calendar. This has no relation to when we have any of our budget things. This is our generic school board calendar. If we don't want to meet 4 times in the summer. This is a good time to have that discussion. I think every once in a while, we'll, as a group, say enough of us aren't going to be here, so we'll postpone. But this is the general. School board regular meetings begin at 6:30 p.m. First meetings of the month will focus on communication, wellness, facilities, and general business. Second meetings of the month will focus on education and finance. So I do want to discuss that. We had talked about that at the last meeting. Where we have maybe a shorter superintendent's report at both meetings. Really focus one meeting on a stronger report so that we can have a lot more time as a full group with education and finance. And I want to have this discussion, but I do want to first say, when Jaden said that a group of kids, group of learners sat and showed an interview committee their understanding of their curriculum, their direction, their purpose, I was very overwhelmed. I want that. And I will tell you right now, I would love to see at our first education focus, could we get those students, could we get kids to come here and tell us what they're learning and what their curriculum means, and have that from them would just be unbelievable if we could have that same kind of interview. I don't know if we could get that. I just think that would be phenomenal. That's got to have been the most empowering thing to be able to take part in. I'm really overwhelmed that they did that. First of all, take your time with the dates for the next meeting. Second of all, can we discuss what we feel about editing our meetings to really have these specific focus?
It's an okay time for,
Please, yeah.
so I like the idea in general, but I was wondering whether it would make sense to have these committees of the whole, on separate weeks and not make them 2-hour discussions, but maybe like have an hour-long education committee on one school board meeting and an hour-long finance committee meeting in the other.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's a good idea. I just want to throw it out there at least.
So my experience has been that the education committee, all right, generally has very good content and reports, and it usually takes an hour and a half. Sometimes less, but usually about an hour and a half. Finance committee does not have, during budget time, there's a lot of time required. But the rest of the time, in terms of the things that the finance committee has to address, usually doesn't take that much time. There have been times when we've canceled it due to lack of adequate agenda items. So I would think that we would be spending more time with the education committee than we would with finance, except during budget. Just my experience. And I think the board would get more value out of the education committee on an ongoing basis than finance. I think they'll get a lot out of finance during budget, but after that, during the year, it's more or less status and things that need to be approved by the board, different things that Carrie needs approval. So.
Okay. All right.
You're gonna forward that to us, the
I
calendar.
didn't hear you saying.
You're gonna forward the calendar to us.
I am.
Okay.
I am. So for our next meeting, let's take a look at this piece by piece. Our next meeting is in May. And we have 4 meetings before this July hits. So let's talk about those 4 meetings for a minute. So for the May 1st meeting,
Which is May 5th,
is it May 5th?
the
Yeah.
first meeting in May.
Yeah.
think so.
May 1st is the policy committee.
Okay. All right, will any committee, facilities, wellness, communication, be ready to report anything on that meeting? I know we're just beginning our community meetings. Hang on, sorry, Charlie. Okay. Okay. So I am fine with May 5th being a general meeting. Does that sound good?
Mhm.
Okay. And then we have, the next meeting is May, what,
19th,
May
I
19th?
believe. I should actually.
All right. Could we focus that on education? Okay, I'm gonna say yes. Our June meeting is
Second.
June 2nd. Okay. That June meeting happens right, just before we're doing all of our graduation and all of our ceremonies and such. So I think we probably should keep that, a general meeting and with just updates of goals for each committee. When we were talking about setting the committees, I asked you guys to have your first meeting, talk about what goals you were going to focus on. So if we could have those goals for each committee, for June 2nd. Okay. Okay. Okay, and then we have June 19th.
That's the holiday.
Okay,
We shouldn't have.
16th.
say it again.
16th.
16th.
16.
June 16th, thank you. Okay, June 16th, let's go back, and do education again. I'd like to talk about the education for a minute. I would love to have students be able to come and tell us about,
Well, that's pretty broad because there are so many subjects. What are you gonna do? Have all the students come in and talk about all
no,
their
what,
subjects? I mean, I think about it, it's like, there are so many specialized areas that could be discussed.
right,
How would you narrow it down?
okay,
Yeah.
too big, too broad, okay,
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, certainly with the end of the year, and our financial situation,
Yeah.
right? We have a lot pending on our final landing spot. I don't care whether, how it gets communicated, but I think that's something that the board is certainly we're gonna need to know. Certainly between now and then, like what the outlook is. I don't care
Yeah,
when and where we discuss it.
right.
But we'll need to at least, even if it's just a quick update, whether we call it a finance committee meeting, or we put it on the agenda. I think that'll be something that we'll wanna,
Yeah.
Okay.
Do
Keeping
that.
it-
So at our,
Outlook.
on the 19th of May,
yeah, again, I don't
okay,
call it a finance committee meeting, just put it on the agenda as like a,
okay,
final budget landing. We'll need to know. Because there's a lot of,
I like it.
Yeah,
I think there's some options that we have there as far as what the outlook is, what we can do with that money, and we'll need to be strategic about that.
Okay, sounds good.
And yeah, and if I can add,
Please.
and what the end of the year can do to facilitate positions for next year, that sort of
Yeah, I
thing.
think there'll be some
Yeah,
decisions.
there'll
that
be some
we can make.
conversations that we'll need to have for the structure, how we're best going forward for the learning of next year, keeping the learning structures very strong. So we're gonna have to talk about how the structures are gonna look within the SAU and and the schools to make sure that we,
Yeah, I
Are-
think, I
are
mean, we
going
set a
forward.
high level plan, right?
Yeah.
But I think that
Yeah.
things can happen between.
Mhm.
we're narrowing
March.
in on some good things and hopefully by some good movement, I should say. And then by May 5th, for instance, we should have a knowledge of at least what all the POs are, at least the first go around of what is going to be shut down and what's not going to be shut down and what is needed. So then we can take a look back. So the 19th makes sense. That's enough time.
One of the big areas that I would love for us to do a deep dive in the future, and I don't know if it's better for June 16th or July, is testing and the different tests that we do, the weight of the tests, the data that comes back to us from it, and how is that utilized. So basically a testing 101 would be really, really nice, something that we can invite the community to so they can get a better understanding of it.
You know,
But
there's-
really push for learning about what our tests are, the varied ones that we use, the value of them. Are they the right direction? You know, there's districts saying we're not so sure that some of this testing is what direction we want to be. We can choose some things. So I think having that discussion, but I think it's important to have it once we see pretty recent scores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And data. So is that better, do you think, for June or July, Ruben?
I don't know. In July, I would think we would get state assessment data back. I don't know when we typically get the AP
Right,
information back.
AP's its own beast
Yeah.
because we're not,
They're
Yeah.
taking the New Hampshire SAS in May.
yeah,
And so I don't know we may have preliminary information by that time. It won't be, if we get it, we will not be allowed to talk about it in public session. They embargo, sorry, that data
Mhm.
because until it's finalized
Plus
throughout
advanced,
the state.
advanced placement testing, I mean, it's a great feather in our caps that these kids are doing so great and taking those. But that isn't, I don't think what the basic citizen is worried about. I think they're worried about, you know, the scores, you know, competency testing more. I mean, we want to showcase that the kids are doing really well doing that, but we've got to, you know, but I think we need to kind of get together and talk about it and evaluate it for ourselves and get a handle on what's going on. And I'm also wondering how much interest we're gonna get in the middle of July for people to come and talk about that.
okay,
I mean, we can try, we can see what we can get for June 16th.
right, why don't we wait and see what we
yeah.
can get? But I guess I'd even think July 15th might be better. I think we might get more comparative data at
Right,
that
yeah,
point.
I-
But really,
yeah.
I would suggest that this isn't as much about the data as it is about understanding our systems and how they are interpreted, how they are translated. I think we need a testing 101. I think we
Yeah, I
need
mean,
something that we can put out.
Looking at the data, it just seems strange to me that New Hampshire is reporting raw scores all over the place and, you know, normally in Massachusetts, you'll get a skills score that's gonna look more like an SAT score, you know, it's gonna be like, you know, 400s to, you know, to
Right.
1600s and I think for people seeing a 40, they don't realize that that's like a, you know, it's not a 40%. I don't know. I found that the tests, look, they're not as bad as they look at first glance, but I can understand why people looking quickly would be upset. So.
Okay. All right, then if does this, let's do, committee updates here, because at this point, at this meeting, most of the committees will have met. So why don't we do education, updates and committee updates that meeting? Does this next cycle look doable? Okay, cool. So yeah, I will share this with you guys. Then the next piece of our agenda is, this piece,
Mhm.
which is our public comments. Anybody from the public, ready?
Finally,
I can't ask a question, but is my question going to come up?
yes,
Oh, you're in the board matters. Hello,
Okay,
cool, it is, all right. So yes, it is coming up very soon,
okay.
all right.
and thank you for bringing it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
thank you.
patient.
All right, anybody online for public comments? Okay, all right. If you get somebody, just call out, like I don't think we need to wait. We can take some time to come back to it should somebody come up. Okay. So we had, members of our community, for board, this is board matters now, and asking about more information on what the August hearing will look like on the use of unexpended retained funds. And I would have no problem whatsoever, if you're okay with it, asking the board to allow you to come and speak. And I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting your name,
Kathy.
Kathy. But if it would be okay with you guys for Kathy to come in and articulate her question.
Sure.
And then there's a broader piece to this that I'd like to have a conversation about. So please, Kathy, just state your full name and residence.
Kathy Kozlowski, Ringe. And my concern about the August voting on the funds is coming from different things that I'm hearing within the community, not understanding the process. There are people thinking that there is going to be a special school board meeting, a special town meeting, that the community is going to have the input in approving how this money is going to be spent. And I don't know. So I would like good information so I can pass the information on, but I think the board needs to put information out there so people are understanding it better.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy.
Can I ask one more thing?
Sure.
How do you ask a question? I mean, you just let me ask a question and I appreciate it. But coming to the general board meetings, if you're sitting here listening and you want to ask something, how do you do that?
Honestly, exactly like you did it. So you were online and you wanted an answer then. That was not something we were able to do. So we put it on the agenda for next time. You did that's how you do it. So you make it clear that there is a question, that there is some insight you're looking for. We can only speak as a board. So not one of us could answer you with that and have a full discussion on it. That's simply what, it's a public comment time. But we will frequently put items on the agenda that come from those comments or that are emailed to us.
Okay.
And that, is an absolutely, we absolutely want to respond. We have to respond as a board though. And so this
I
goes
think
on the
it's
agenda. We ask our questions, we get, input for that.
And I understand that, but I think there is a feeling of, why should I go to the board meetings? I can't ask any questions.
Okay.
Like, I have a question for Charlie, and maybe I need to ask him afterwards. It goes back to probably 3 school board meetings ago with the Ringe Recreation Department and Ringe not signing whatever was being presented to them for waivers for facility fees, and they ripped apart this whatever had been sent to them. And Charlie, you were going to go to Ringe, I think to the selectmen's meeting, and find out what happened.
Yeah. So again, Kathy, again, we can only speak as a board. And we did do well, hang on, because we are actually tabling that. We waived the fees because we are going back and having a group take a closer look at that. So I can say that.
Okay.
So this is, that is a complicated thing, and it's been years of complicated things. There was miscommunication in the tearing up piece of it. And so we are definitely still working with people, but that's not, again, we can only speak as a board.
And I
so-
appreciate that.
But that is
Being from
absolutely still.
Ringe, I just was so upset to think that something like that.
That was
happened.
a miscommunication.
Thank you.
So the conversation is twofold here, which is why we put it in board matters as a part of the agenda. One is, it would be great to have a public statement saying this is what that August meeting means. But then what I really believe needs to happen is we need to have a place on our website that's easily accessible, not a Facebook post saying this is the information, a place that's dedicated on our website for frequently asked questions so that we can, any of the board members can direct people to this answer. And I don't mean verbal, like not the video, look at this at 7.3 minutes. I mean, can we ask the superintendent to create a document of this is what the August hearing is going to look like. This is that process. And then as other frequently asked questions come up, then we add more things to this. But right now, this is a huge issue for people. Like, what does it mean in August? Is actually really big. So I would love to give a verbal answer now and ask the superintendent if you're okay doing that. But then I'd like to ask us to have a spot on our website dedicated to frequently asked questions, which we currently do not have. Currently, we do have like important links and we have community. And when you click on community, we have some information, but community might be a good place for it. I'm not sure. But first of all, what does the board think about having a frequently asked questions page so that we can link people to it and send it to them and say, here's some answers, and then get that input to say, oh boy, a lot of people are asking about this. Let's not say at 8:22 we had this in a meeting. Let's have a document written about it. Charlie,
So I'm just interested in process.
can't hear you.
I'm interested process wise. All right, you said that we couldn't put anything there unless it was from the board. So you have a fact, so I'm jumping ahead thinking that the board is going to be dedicating some time during its meetings to create facts based on the questions that are asked.
No, we would be directing the superintendent to create a document based on these specific questions and criteria. So right now,
But you're talking specifically about one thing now.
one thing now,
You're not talking about facts. You're talking about the public
Right.
hearing.
exactly. We have one thing before us tonight, but we all know that we've been fielding questions about things. This would become a spot that we can say, that's a good place to put this. Let's get let's ask Ruben to make a document about this. As we talk about testing, especially as we talk about the education initiatives we're doing. You know, we could have what do they call them, white paper? We could have a white paper about, here is the meeting, we talked about this, here is more information on this, here is the gist of it.
But the facts will be approved by the board.
It would be directed by the board.
So then.
Yes, all
what is
approved
in
and directed
fact-
by the board.
What is in effect is not a statement of the board, it's a statement of the district.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So does the board approve? Let's have a motion, please.
I'm sorry,
Sure.
I'm confused. So I was initially thinking that the frequently asked questions section would be about the process of the public hearing. What would we be discussing? Who would have input? And who would vote? Like, I guess that's what I thought would be happening.
I think we should do that first maybe, and then we'll also
Do
do
that
the,
first.
yeah.
Yep. All right. Get okay. All right. Is there any board member that would like to speak to the August hearing on use of unexpended retained funds? Or are people willing to have Ruben speak for us?
We'll also, Ruben, sure. I mean, I'd be glad to.
Speak down.
It's a standard.
Yeah, why don't we?
It's a
why don't we
standard
push this
process.
forward?
It's
about the
This is like
process.
an
Oh,
important
it's
document.
it's a process. Carrie would outline the process best.
Process is defined by law. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a public hearing. A public hearing is not a public vote. The public has already put the decision makers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A quorum will make a decision as to how to go about using that. However, it is a time for individuals from the community to voice their opinions or their thoughts to the board. That could influence the decision that the board members make.
Right.
Right now, the recommendation on the table is that, you know, about $1 million is going to be approved, assuming we have it. But we'll talk about that at one of these meetings. To fund the expected costs for co-curriculars and extracurricular activities for next year, as well as the costs up to a certain amount. I think it was like 400,000 for pre-K. Just a note, our pre-Ks are universal 4-year-olds. We have like 1 opening left. So it's like everyone has gotten in.
Yeah.
It's been great, but so it's needed. It's good that we have it.
Right, and so this is already something we've discussed, but we're gonna receive public input
Yes.
on whether this should be done differently or shouldn't be done or go for it. Or
It's not a special vote. It's not a special.
Will you be making the decision that night?
The night of the hearing, yes. Yep.
So when
I won't be making the decision. I'll be
Right.
making a recommendation.
Right.
Yeah.
So when people leave, they will know.
They will know.
The board will have to say exactly how we intend to spend the money.
They have to be very specific with this
Much-
particular fund.
Much like we did at that meeting, except probably at a more detailed level, right? Could everything be exactly the same? Maybe.
Right, because there might be a slightly different amount of money.
I would guess that something will change and that.
Right.
And but I guess I'll say it'll need to be very specific down to the penny
Mhm.
of how we're gonna spend.
Yep.
What we're gonna spend it on. And I guess any discussion why.
Yep.
Is I guess is.
If we can describe
privilege
this
of the board.
as you just described it, Ruben, like on our website, so people can look and get that kind of summary, because I didn't even really understand it that way until you explained it. So that, normal people know what to expect.
Mhm.
You know,
And I think that word specific is what people are looking for, I need to see,
yeah,
not just.
And there's no public vote. It's not a special meeting. It's a vote of the board.
And I think people want to know also, can they still change it? And my understanding is technically no. I mean, that money, we voted on it
well,
in
it's an all or
confidence.
nothing. I mean, if the public somehow convinced the board that it wasn't good, well, and that's not gonna happen, but the public really only has like a yes, no influence on us, and then we have a yes, no. It's not like they can, do a cafeteria program of changing the buckets of money anymore, because those are frozen. And I don't think as like a citizen, you might realize that. Because we got a lot of feedback during the last meetings of people saying that they thought they were going to be able to propose things we were going to spend money on, so we're going to cut, so.
That's where the confusion.
Right, that is exactly where the
Yeah.
confusion.
Charlie, you were gonna say something too?
Yes, the purpose of the public hearing is to gather public input prior to making a decision. So the board can change whatever decision it made in the past based on public input.
But the August hearing is kind of like a final hearing on the whole thing.
The reason why it's in August is because that's when the end of the year's books will all be wrapped up. We'll have to be sending more information to the state for the upcoming year. We have very specific processes to make sure that everything's buttoned. So that's kind of like, that's when we definitely know, well, historically, that's when we definitely know
Yeah.
what funds
All the books
exist.
need to be closed for
Yeah.
the previous year before we know exactly how much.
Yeah.
is left and
Unexpended
what we can
funds
do.
there.
And
So just hypothetical, okay? Hypothetical is that sometime between now and August, someone could come along and provide unanticipated revenue. Right, which the board could accept and then use for specific purposes. Which would change or could change the decision that's made at the public hearing. Okay.
Yep, they would, and except that it would, to twist that a little bit, it would need to happen after July 1.
Yeah, I think.
Any unanticipated revenue provided this year, the board could accept, but it couldn't offset anything for next year. Yeah. If we went into a budget cycle, this is not about this necessarily, but just to finish off the thought. If we were to go into a budget cycle next year and we were, for instance, going to say, hey, we don't have, we don't want to budget all the money. We know it costs $500,000 for X program, right? And some group out in the community says, we'd like to give you a grant in a sense for 200,000. If they tell us during that budget time, we can budget the expense and we can budget the revenue. The expense is still there, so you're going to see a high number, but it won't impact taxes the same because you'll have your revenue. Yeah, so that's how it goes. That's expected revenue as opposed to unanticipated.
And am I correct to say, should the board saying, especially after public comment, no, we want to change some of this, we would still be responsible for finding the money for the contracts we promised
Yes.
in April?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we have to find those funds somewhere else.
There's a risk.
Yeah.
There was a risk.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Kathy, any other on that piece? Any other? Okay. All right.
So
So
be back in a couple of weeks, but no.
good, good.
Please, yeah, you're
Please,
good.
please do. Yeah, it's a
Thank
really
you.
valuable question. And it really just needed us to take our
And
time.
I think that a lot is coming from an older population. People concerned about their property taxes, but more concerned as to what happened. And upset with what happened.
As are we,
Yeah.
as are we. Okay, thank you. Then, could I have a motion on setting up a fact page on our website? And that's okay if you guys don't want to do it. That's perfectly fine. This is me throwing out there that seems reasonable.
Just before, can I just ask a clarifying question?
Yes,
Do you mean a fact page where a portion of that is about the public hearing? And then the rest of it might be other things as they come up?
Yep.
Or are you saying a fact page about the public hearing and then there's something else separate from that? Are there going to be two different conversations? I'm hearing a blend, so I'm just trying to figure.
I think we need a fact page about the public hearing and that process and how that's gonna go.
Yeah, because that's what
I don't
people
really
care
want,
about.
I don't really want a mini Facebook page with everybody's comments.
No.
Bad enough on Facebook.
I think it should be a section on our website that just talks about this process, about.
Right.
About the public hearing.
Yes,
Yeah, because that's, people are gonna come looking for that and it should be really easy to find.
Right, the law that governs it and.
Yeah, I mean, we have public hearings all the time, except nobody's usually interested. So
okay.
just point them to the information.
So
And my
what motion are you looking for, Lisa?
Yeah. Yeah, my understanding is the public hearing right now is scheduled for the 5th, is that right? It's up here on the screen, the 1st of August?
That's the plan.
Okay. I'm just gonna put it in.
So is the
Board members gonna be here that day?
I know, that's,
Do you want a motion to have the district?
Yeah.
Publish?
yeah, to direct
that
the,
On the public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Seconded.
okay, thank you, Charlie, thank you, Judy, all in favor?
Is that okay, Ruben?
Aye. Okay, any opposed? Abstain? Okay, passes 7-0-0. Thank you, everybody, for this detail work. I know it takes a long time.
And I guess I do recommend, not to jump in, Lisa, but people look
I
at,
didn't hear you, Chris.
I'm sorry, I do recommend that people look at those dates, I guess. Ensure that we're here.
Yeah, I will forward those to you guys. I first, there's one more piece that I need. Let me just get it up here. Oh, board committees, wrong one. Let me try it again. That's it. All right. Dates, Policy Committee is going to be the first Thursday at 4 PM. So our first one is going to be May 1st. And that's Chris, Charlie, and Lisa. Facilities Committee, can I confirm that it's going to stay on the third Monday of the month?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's Sandy, Christine, and John. Wellness Committee, do you guys have a meeting date?
Sandy sent me some sort of schedule.
I was looking for something and could not find it, so.
I sent it to Judy.
Yeah.
You
I
did
can
that.
forward it to you, but you guys can think of your own schedule too. I'll just go on, I'm told to.
I believe there's one in May,
Yeah, it is.
but it is not every month. So that's what's
It's May 9th
May 9th.
at 3:15. I'll forward it to you.
Thank you. Well, now I have it.
May 9th at 3:15?
Yeah.
And where is that meeting?
We usually hold it on Zoom
Yeah.
too.
Where?
Zoom.
We
Zoom. Okay. All right.
And is that okay?
Is that a public meeting? Do you post an agenda with the Zoom link? Because they are public meetings, right?
For public meetings, we don't use a Zoom link, any of our committee meetings.
Yeah.
No, we don't, yeah.
Okay, so that's gonna be an issue. If it's a public meeting, then they need to have the link ahead.
Okay, I'll talk to Heather about that.
All right. So do we have a place on our website we have a place for the meetings? And so what could happen is, maybe, generic Zoom link could be made up that people could click into on the website. And if they could look at the meeting calendar and see where each of our meetings are. And then the web link for the Zoom could be placed on that. And because you don't meet every single month, right?
Right.
So that could just be updated within a few days on the website? All right, so if you wouldn't mind getting that to Ruben with the Zoom link, so that can be, make sure that people can access that, okay? All right. Any other things we need in board matters? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sandy. And John, go just have an amazing time in Nicaragua.
Oh, thank
I just,
you. Dominican Republic, yes.
Dominican Republic.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, it's gonna be incredible. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Seven, here we go. Are you going back toward your office? Because I need to sign the manifest again, apparently.
Go back.